Ah, welcome back, you beautiful, unbreakable enigma. Welcome back to the ones they tried to bury with evidence that never existed. Welcome back to the souls they investigated like criminals, only to find angels with scars. They did it, didn't they? They went digging, they assembled their little task force, grabbed their shovels made of spite, and started excavating your entire history, frame by frame, conversation by conversation, relationship by relationship. They hired people. They asked around. They scrolled through years of your digital footprint, hunting, searching, praying to find something, anything, that would justify the hatred they already felt for you. They wanted dirt. They wanted scandals. They wanted proof that you were the monster they needed you to be. And what did they find? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. Not a single skeleton. Not one buried secret. Not even a questionable screenshot. Just years of kindness they ignored. Loyalty they betrayed. And honesty they called naive. They found a life so clean it made their own look like crime scenes. And now they're standing there, shovels in hand, surrounded by empty holes, realizing they just spent months trying to destroy someone who never did a damn thing wrong. Do you understand how devastating that is for them? They built an entire case in their minds. They rehearsed the accusations. They gathered the audience. They sharpened their words like knives, ready to carve your reputation into pieces. But when they opened the file, when they pulled back the curtain, when they finally presented their evidence to the world, all they had was a testimony to your character, a biography of sacrifice, a timeline of grace under pressure, a documented history of you being exactly who you said you were while they were busy being everything they accused you of. And that is the most brutal form of exposure, because now they can't unsee it. Now they can't pretend. Now they're forced to sit with the uncomfortable, soul-crushing truth that they wasted years hating someone who never deserved it. They thought they were building a case. They were building your monument. They thought they were gathering evidence for your trial. They were collecting proof of your purity. Every screenshot they saved to use against you became a receipt of your patience. Every conversation they replayed to twist your words became a recording of your honesty. Every person they interviewed to find dirt on you just kept saying the same thing over and over. They were kind. They were real. They were there when no one else was. And with every testimony, their plan crumbled. With every witness, their lies shattered. With every attempt to villainize you, your halo got brighter. Because the truth is a funny thing. It doesn't need defense. It doesn't need lawyers. It doesn't need you to fight back. It just sits there, quiet and patient, waiting for liars to exhaust themselves. And that's exactly what happened. They exhausted themselves chasing ghosts, digging graves for a body that was never buried, building coffins for a spirit that refused to die. Now let's talk about what this really means. See, when people dig into your past with malicious intent, it's never really about you. It's about them. It's about their desperate need to justify the way they treated you. Because deep down, beneath all the fake confidence and public performances, they know they were wrong. They know they hurt you without cause. They know they betrayed someone who only showed them love. And that guilt, that shame, that gnawing, relentless discomfort in their chest, it's unbearable. So what do people do when they can't live with the truth? They rewrite it. They go searching for evidence to support the lie they've been telling themselves. They deserved it. They must have done something. There has to be a reason, but there wasn't. There isn't. There never will be. And now they're stuck holding the mirror they tried to shatter, staring at their own reflection, realizing they were the villain all along. Do you know what happens to people when they discover they destroyed something pure? They break. Not loudly, not publicly, but internally, in the quiet hours when they're alone with their thoughts and the weight of what they've done. They replay every moment, every cruel word, every dismissive laugh, every time they mocked your pain or celebrated your struggles. And for the first time they see it clearly, not through the lens of their ego, but through the lens of truth. And it destroys them, because you can recover from being hated by a bad person. But how do you recover from being a bad person who hated someone good? That's the prison they're living in now. That's the sentence they gave themselves. And unlike you, who walked through fire and came out stronger, they're stuck in the ashes, choking on the smoke of their own creation. They can't escape it. They can't delete it. They can't unsee what they uncovered. Let's go deeper into their investigation. Picture this. They start scrolling years back. Photos, posts, comments, tags. They're looking for the rage post, the petty subtweet, the messy breakup rant, the screenshot of you talking trash in a private chat. But they don't find it. Instead, they find you encouraging people. They find you celebrating others. They find you being vulnerable without being vicious. They find you showing up for people who never showed up for you. And it makes them sick. Because it's one thing to hate someone you think is fake, but it's unbearable to hate someone who's consistently real. So they dig further. They reach out to your exes, hoping for the dirt, hoping for the "they were toxic" story. But even your exes, even the ones who didn't work out, even the ones who parted ways, they say the same thing. They were good to me, it just wasn't the right fit. No scandal, no drama, no ammunition, no ammunition. Then they go after your old friends. Surely someone will crack. Surely someone will spill the tea, expose the secret, reveal the hidden darkness. But again, nothing. Just people saying, I don't know why we drifted apart, but they were always solid. And with every dead end, the panic sets in. Because they've already told people. They've already spread the rumors. They've already painted you as the enemy. And now they're realizing they have nothing to back it up. No proof, no witnesses, no receipts, just their word against your documented history of being exactly who you claim to be. And that's when the fear kicks in. Not the fear of you, the fear of being exposed as the liar, the manipulator, the one who weaponized their pain to destroy someone innocent. Because the world forgives mistakes, but it doesn't forgive calculated cruelty disguised as justice. And that's exactly what they committed. They didn't accidentally hurt you. They systematically tried to erase you. And now the evidence of their campaign is everywhere, while the evidence of your wrongdoing is nowhere. Here's what they didn't expect. They didn't expect you to have lived with such integrity that even your worst moments were still rooted in love. They didn't expect your mistakes to be so human, so understandable, so forgivable that no one could weaponize them. They didn't expect your past to be so clean that their investigation would backfire into a documentary of their own toxicity. Because every message they dug up, every moment they tried to twist, it just highlighted one undeniable fact. You were the one trying to hold things together while they were busy tearing everything apart. You were the one apologizing when you didn't have to. You were the one extending grace when they deserved none. You were the one showing up with love while they showed up with knives. And now it's all documented, all time-stamped, all backed up in the cloud of truth they can never delete. They wanted to blackmail you with your past, but instead, they immortalized your character. Let's talk about what happens next. See, they can't just walk away from this. They're too invested. They've spent too much time, too much energy, too much of their reputation on this narrative. So now they have to double down. They have to get louder. They have to create new lies to cover the old ones. They have to twist the narrative even harder, reach even further, accuse you of things even they don't believe. Because admitting they were wrong, that's not an option. That would require humility they don't possess. That would require accountability they've never practiced. So instead they spiral. They contradict themselves. They change their story. They move the goalposts. Okay, so maybe they didn't do that, but they still made me feel this way. Okay, so maybe there's no proof, but I know what I know. Okay, so maybe everyone else says they're good, but those people don't see what I see, and with every desperate pivot, they lose more credibility. With every new accusation, they reveal more about themselves. Meanwhile, you're not even in the courtroom anymore. You're not defending yourself. You're not scrambling to prove your innocence, because you don't need to. The evidence speaks for itself. Your life speaks for itself. The people who actually know you speak for themselves, and more importantly, you've made peace with the fact that some people will hate you no matter what the truth is, not because of who you are, but because of who they need you to be in order to justify their actions. And that's their prison, not yours. You walked away from that cell. You left them the key, but they're too proud to use it. They'd rather sit in the darkness they created, convincing themselves they're right, even as the walls close in, even as their own words become evidence against them, even as their own investigation exposes them as the fraud. And you're out here building a life so bright, so full, so undeniably authentic, that their lies can't even cast a shadow on it anymore. Here's the part that will haunt them forever. They'll never know peace. They'll scroll past your name and feel something they can't name. Regret mixed with envy, shame mixed with rage. They'll see you thriving and it'll feel like a personal attack, because in their minds, you were supposed to fall. You were supposed to crumble under the weight of their accusations. You were supposed to break, apologize, beg for mercy, prove them right by becoming the mess they predicted. But you didn't. You rose. You healed. You moved forward without looking back. And that is unforgivable to them. And that is only possible when you do what made you who and what, not because you did anything wrong, but because you did everything right. You became the living proof that their narrative was always fiction. You became the walking testimony that they were always the problem. And now they have to live with that. They have to watch you win. They have to see you loved. They have to witness you respected by the very people they tried to turn against you. And the cruelest part? Some of those people are waking up. Some of the ones who believe the lies are starting to ask questions. Wait, if they were really that bad, why is there no proof? If they were really toxic, why does everyone who actually knows them say otherwise? If they were really the problem, why are they the only one who moved on in peace? And with every question, the foundation of lies cracks a little more. The house of cards starts to collapse. The reputation they tried to destroy becomes the reputation that outlasts there. Because lies have an expiration date. They require constant maintenance. They need to be fed, updated, reinforced. But the truth just exists. It doesn't need defense. It doesn't need updates. It doesn't need you to convince anyone. It simply is. And eventually everyone sees it. Maybe not today, maybe not this year, but eventually the fog clears, and when it does, they'll be standing there exposed with nothing but their own shame and your clean record staring back at them. Let's talk about the emotional toll this took on you, because we can't pretend it didn't hurt. We can't act like their investigation, their accusations, their betrayal didn't cut deep. It did. You're human. You felt every bit of it. The confusion, the anger, the heartbreak of being misunderstood by people you thought knew you, the exhaustion of being painted as something you're not, the isolation of watching people believe lies without asking for your side. It broke something in you, didn't it? Not your character, not your integrity, but your faith in people. Your willingness to be vulnerable, your ability to trust easily. They didn't just try to destroy your reputation, they tried to destroy your spirit. They wanted you to become bitter, cold, defensive. They wanted you to turn into the villain they accused you of being. But here's what they miscalculated. Pain doesn't always harden people. Sometimes it refines them. Sometimes it burns away everything that isn't real, leaving only the core, the unshakable truth of who you are. And that's what happened to you. You didn't become cruel. You became clearer. You didn't become vengeful. You became wiser. You didn't become closed off. You became selective because you realized something profound through all of this. The people who truly matter don't need an investigation to know your heart. They don't need evidence to trust you. They don't need a trial to stand by you. They just know because they've seen you. The real you, the you that shows up when no one's watching. The you that loves without agenda. The you that hurts but doesn't hurt back. And those people, they never wavered. They never questioned. They never needed your defense because they already knew the truth. And that's the circle you're left with now. Smaller, yes, but unbreakable. Built on truth instead of convenience. Rooted in love instead of proximity. And that is worth more than any crowd that only stayed because they didn't know better. So here's what you do now. You let them sit with it. You let them marinate in the reality of what they uncovered. You let them wrestle with the guilt, the shame, the cognitive dissonance of hating someone who never gave them a reason. You don't gloat. You don't rub it in. You don't need to. Your life is the statement. Your peace is the proof. Your growth is the testimony. You just keep moving forward. Keep building, keep loving the people who deserve it. Keep creating a life so authentic that their lies sound like fiction even to the people who wanted to believe them. You become so undeniable in your goodness that their accusations become laughable. Not because you're performing, not because you're trying to prove anything, but because you're simply being who you've always been, just without the weight of their judgment anymore, without the burden of trying to make them understand, without the exhaustion of defending yourself to people who were committed to misunderstanding you. And one day, maybe years from now, they'll be alone with their thoughts. They'll remember you, they'll remember what they did. They'll remember the investigation, the lies, the campaign to destroy you, and they'll feel it, that sinking, suffocating realization that they were wrong. that they hurt someone who didn't deserve it, that they were the villain in a story where they convinced themselves they were the hero, and in that moment, they'll want to reach out. They'll want to apologize. They'll want to explain, to make amends, to be forgiven. But here's the thing, you won't be waiting for it. You won't be sitting by the phone hoping for their redemption arc. You'll be so far beyond that chapter that their apology will feel like a letter from a stranger. Because you healed without them. You grew without them. You forgave them without needing them to ask for it. Not because they deserved your forgiveness, but because you deserved your peace. Let's address the people watching who believed the lies. The ones who participated in the pile-on. The ones who repeated the rumors without checking the facts. The ones who unfollowed, blocked, gossiped, judged. Some of you are starting to see the cracks now, aren't you? Starting to realize that maybe, just maybe, you were manipulated. That maybe you were used as a weapon in someone else's vendetta. That maybe you hurt someone who never deserved it. And now you're feeling something you don't know what to do with. Guilt, shame, regret. You want to make it right, but you don't know how. You want to apologize, but it feels too late. You want to undo the damage, but the words are already out there. Here's what you need to know. The person you hurt, they've already moved on. Not because they don't care, but because they had to. They had to prioritize their peace over your redemption. They had to choose healing over holding grudges. They had to let go of the need for you to understand, because waiting for that understanding was killing them. But here's the thing. It's never too late to do the right thing. It's never too late to admit you were wrong. It's never too late to stop participating in the lie. You might not get their friendship back. You might not get their trust back. But you'll get your integrity back. And that's worth more than any relationship built on a foundation of cruelty. So if you're watching this and you know you were part of the problem, here's your invitation. Stop. Stop repeating the lie. Stop defending the indefensible. Stop pretending you don't know the truth. You do. You've always known. You just chose comfort over honesty. You chose the crowd over conscience. But you can choose differently now. You can be brave enough to say, I was wrong. I participated in something cruel. I hurt someone who didn't deserve it, and I'm sorry. Will it fix everything? No, but it'll fix something in you. It'll close a chapter you've been stuck in. It'll free you from the prison of pretending. Now, back to you. The one they investigated, the one they tried to break, the one who survived the excavation of your entire life and came out with a clean record. How does it feel? Not the vindication, though that's there, but the deeper feeling. The realization that you were always who you thought you were, that you weren't crazy, that you weren't the problem, that your kindness wasn't weakness, that your honesty wasn't naivety, that your love wasn't a flaw. You were right all along, about yourself, about your intentions, about your heart, and they were wrong, about everything. And now you get to move forward with a level of self-assurance they'll never have, because you've been tested. You've been investigated. You've been put under the most intense scrutiny, and you passed, not because you're perfect. There you are. Been waiting for you to arrive at this exact moment because something shifted in you, didn't it? Something cold and calculating and terrifyingly aware. You stopped arguing, stopped defending yourself, stopped trying to convince people of your truth. And that silence, that eerie, beautiful silence, that was the moment you became dangerous. They thought you gave up. They thought you finally broke. They thought your quietness meant defeat, but you were just watching, studying, collecting data like a silent algorithm, recording every lie, every contradiction, every fake smile. You weren't broken, you were loading, and they had no idea what was coming. See, they got comfortable, didn't they? They thought they won. They thought they successfully manipulated you into submission. They thought your silence was surrender, and that's exactly what you wanted them to think. Because the most powerful weapon in psychological warfare isn't rage. It's patience. It's the ability to see the trap being set, and instead of running from it or fighting it, you just step aside and let them walk right into the center of their own destruction. You didn't need to expose them. You didn't need to defend yourself. You didn't need to say a single word, because you freaking knew that people who operate in lies eventually strangle themselves with their own story. All you had to do was wait, stay quiet, stay observing, and let time do what it does best, which is reveal the truth, without you having to lift a single finger. They called you paranoid when you started distancing yourself. They said you were overreacting when you stopped responding with the same energy. They labeled you cold when you refused to engage in their drama anymore. But you weren't any of those things. You were awake. You saw the patterns before they even formed. You felt the shift in energy before they showed their cards. You sensed the betrayal weeks before it manifested. And instead of panicking, or confronting, or begging for clarity, you just observed. You became the scientist studying the experiment, no longer the subject trapped inside it. You stopped being reactive and became strategic, and that was the moment you reclaimed your power, because power doesn't scream, power doesn't beg, power sits back with a knowing smile and watches everything unfold exactly as predicted. So they kept playing their little games, didn't they? They kept dropping hints, thinking you were too blind to notice. They kept whispering behind your back, thinking you were too naive to sense it. They kept setting traps, thinking you were too trusting to see the wires. But every move they made, you cataloged it. Every lie they told, you filed it away. Every manipulation tactic they used, you studied it like a master class in human weakness. You weren't hurt anymore. You were fascinated by how predictable they were, how desperate their strategies became, how transparent their intentions truly were once you stopped looking at them through the lens of love or loyalty and started seeing them for what they actually were. Broken people trying to break you to feel less alone in their misery. Small people trying to shrink you to match their limited perception of life. Scared people trying to cage you because your freedom reminded them of everything they weren't brave enough to become. And here's the thing they never understood about you. You didn't need to fight back, because fighting requires you to stay on their level. And you were operating on a completely different frequency. While they were playing checkers, you were designing the entire board game from scratch. They thought they were 3 steps ahead, but you saw their moves from 10 different timelines and chose the path where you didn't even have to engage. That's not weakness, that's mastery. That's evolution. That's the difference between someone who reacts from ego and someone who responds from wisdom. You realize that the best revenge isn't confrontation. It's becoming so undeniably elevated that your very existence becomes their punishment. You didn't need to prove them wrong. Your life did that automatically just by you choosing to heal, grow, and rise in silence, while they stayed exactly where you left them. They're panicking now, aren't they? They're starting to notice that something changed, that the version of you they thought they could control doesn't exist anymore, that every tactic they used in the past suddenly has no effect. They push your buttons and you don't flinch. They try to guilt trip you and you don't bend. They attempt to gaslight you and you just look at them with that look. That terrifying, knowing look that says, I see exactly what you're doing, and it's not going to work this time. And that look, that unbothered, unshakable presence, it breaks them because they realize their power over you has vanished completely. They can't manipulate what they can't reach. They can't control what they can't touch. They can't gaslight someone who's already awake to every single manipulation pattern in existence. So now they're scrambling, recalculating, desperately trying to figure out when exactly they lost control, but the truth is they never had it. You just let them think they did while you built your exit strategy in complete silence. You want to know why they're so obsessed with you now? Why they can't stop watching, monitoring, trying to figure out what you're thinking? It's because unpredictability is the ultimate power move. When you were reactive, they could control you. When you were emotional, they could manipulate you. When you were desperate for their validation, they could weaponize it. But now you're unreadable. You don't react the way you used to. You don't engage the way they expect. You don't need anything from them anymore, and that makes you dangerous. You became a closed system, impenetrable, operating on your own frequency with your own rules, and suddenly they're the ones feeling powerless. They're addicted to the chaos you used to provide, the reactions, the emotions, the drama, and now that you've removed yourself from that equation, they are experiencing withdrawal. They need you to engage to feel relevant. They need you to react to feel powerful. They need you to care to validate their existence. And you just don't anymore. Let's talk about that moment, shall we? That exact moment when you felt it coming before it happened. Maybe it was a shift in their tone. Maybe it was an inconsistency in their story. Maybe it was just a gut feeling that screamed something is wrong here. Most people ignore that intuition. They talk themselves out of it. They convince themselves they're overthinking. But you honored it. You didn't gaslight yourself into believing things were fine. You didn't force yourself to trust people who were actively showing you they weren't trustworthy. You listened to that inner voice, that ancient survival instinct that can smell danger before it fully materializes, and instead of confronting it directly, you just started preparing. You started emotionally detaching, mentally withdrawing, strategically repositioning yourself so that when the inevitable betrayal came, you were already 3 steps removed from the blast radius. And when it finally happened, when they finally revealed their true colors exactly as you predicted, you didn't cry or scream or demand answers. You just nodded quietly to yourself and thought, yeah, I knew that was coming. That's the difference between you and most people. Most people get blindsided by betrayal because they refuse to see the signs. They cling to false hope and outdated loyalty until reality smacks them in the face. But you've been training yourself to see people clearly, not through the filter of who you want them to be, but through the brutal lens of who they're showing themselves to be right now, in this moment, with their actions, not their words. You stopped making excuses for people's behavior, stopped giving endless second chances to people who never changed, stopped believing that your love or patience or understanding could fix someone who wasn't interested in being fixed. You accepted the truth you saw and adjusted your strategy accordingly, and that level of emotional intelligence, combined with ruthless self-preservation, that's what makes you untouchable now. They thought they were testing you, but really, you were testing them. Every conversation was data collection. Every interaction was a psychological experiment. Every moment of silence was you giving them enough rope to hang themselves with. And they did. They always do, because people who operate in deception can't help but contradict themselves eventually. The lies start stacking, the stories stop matching up, the mask starts slipping, and all you had to do was stay quiet and observe. You didn't need to interrogate them or demand the truth, you just needed to pay attention and let their own inconsistencies expose them. That's the power of patience combined with awareness. You don't chase the truth. You let it come to you naturally, because truth always does. It always surfaces eventually, no matter how deep someone tries to bury it. And now here you are, sitting in complete clarity while they're drowning in their own confusion. You're free while they're still trapped in the web they wove. You're healing while they're still bleeding from self-inflicted wounds. You didn't need closure from them because you created your own closure by simply accepting reality and moving forward. You didn't need an apology because you stopped waiting for people who hurt you intentionally to suddenly develop accountability. You didn't need revenge because you realized the best form of revenge is radical indifference. It's living so well, healing so deeply, rising so high that they become completely irrelevant to your story. They're a footnote now, a lesson learned, a chapter closed, and you're the entire book, rewriting itself in real time. Here's what terrifies them most about this new version of you. You're not angry anymore. Anger they could handle, anger they could manipulate. Anger meant you still cared enough to engage. But this calm, unbothered detachment, this complete removal of emotional investment, this is what breaks them. Because now they realize they don't matter to you anymore. They don't occupy space in your mind. They don't trigger emotional reactions. They don't hold any power over your peace. You looked at them, you saw them fully for everything they were and everything they weren't, and you just decided they weren't worth your energy anymore. Not out of bitterness, but out of self-respect. Not out of hatred, but out of self-love. Not out of weakness, but out of strength. So profound, it doesn't need to announce itself. They'll try to provoke you now, just to see if they can still get a reaction. They'll poke and prod and push boundaries, hoping to find that old version of you that used to respond with emotion. But you won't take the bait, will you? Because you've evolved past that version of yourself that needed to defend or explain or justify. You understand now that some people aren't looking for understanding. They're looking for control. And the moment you recognize that, the game changes completely. You stop playing by their rules. You stop engaging on their terms. You stop giving them the satisfaction of your reaction. And suddenly, you're free. Free from their manipulation, free from their drama, free from the exhausting cycle of trying to make blind people see what they're choosing to ignore. So let them wonder, let them obsess, let them lose sleep trying to figure out when exactly they lost you. Let them replay conversations in their head, searching for the moment you stopped caring. Let them analyze your silence, trying to decode what it means. Let them panic as they realize that the person they thought they had figured out just became completely unreadable. Because that's your power now. Mystery combined with indifference, awareness combined with detachment, strength wrapped in silence. You don't owe them explanations. You don't owe them access. You don't owe them anything. Except maybe a quiet thank you for showing you exactly who not to trust, exactly what patterns to avoid, exactly how strong you actually are when pushed to your absolute limit. They thought they broke you, but they just broke your tolerance for lies. They thought they hurt you, but they just hurt your ability to ignore red flags. They thought they won, but they just lost access to someone who would have moved mountains for them if they had chosen differently. And now, Now they get to watch from a distance as you build a life so aligned, so peaceful, so genuinely fulfilling that it becomes obvious to everyone, including them, that you never needed them to thrive, you just needed to stop letting them drain you. That's the final realization that haunts them. They weren't essential to your happiness. They were the obstacle preventing it. And the moment you removed that obstacle, everything changed. You sensed it coming, so you prepared. You saw the trap, so you stepped aside. You felt the shift, so you adjusted accordingly. That's not paranoia. That's pattern recognition. That's not overthinking. That's survival instinct operating at peak efficiency. That's not being difficult. That's having standards and boundaries and self-respect. You refuse to be gaslit into doubting your own intuition. You refuse to be manipulated into ignoring obvious red flags. You refuse to sacrifice your peace for someone else's comfort. And because you honored yourself in that way, because you chose self-preservation over people-pleasing, you're the one who emerged from this situation not just intact, but elevated, upgraded, evolved, operating on a frequency so high that the people who tried to drag you down can't even reach you anymore. Now you walk differently, don't you? There's a weight to your presence that wasn't there before. There's a knowing in your eyes that makes people uncomfortable because they can feel that you see through them. You're not naive anymore. You're not desperate anymore. You're not willing to dim yourself anymore just to make others feel comfortable in their smallness. You carry yourself like someone who's been tested by fire and didn't just survive but emerged refined, sharper, clearer, more aligned with your truth than ever before. People feel it when you enter a room. They sense that you're not someone to be messed with anymore. They recognize on some level that you've crossed a threshold they're still too scared to approach. You've become the version of yourself that younger you needed, the version that doesn't accept disrespect, doesn't tolerate manipulation, doesn't settle for anything less than genuine respect and reciprocity. And the beautiful part is, you didn't become cold, you became selective. You didn't become closed off, you became discerning. You didn't become heartless, you just stopped giving your heart to people who treated it like a weapon against you. You still love deeply, but now you love yourself first. You still trust, but now you verify. You still believe in people's potential, but now you accept their reality. That's maturity wrapped in wisdom. That's strength forged through pain. That's the evolution that only happens when you stop betraying yourself to keep others comfortable. You finally chose you. And everything changed, not because the world changed, but because your relationship with yourself transformed so completely that you stopped accepting what you used to tolerate. So here's your reminder in case you needed it. You're not crazy for feeling what you felt. You're not paranoid for sensing what you sensed. You're not overreacting for protecting what you protected. You were right. Your intuition was accurate. Your boundaries were necessary, and anyone who made you feel otherwise was projecting their own inability to face truth onto you. You don't need their validation of your experience because you lived it. You don't need their acknowledgement of what happened because you witnessed it. You don't need their apology because you've already forgiven yourself for ever doubting your own perception. That's closure. That's freedom. That's power reclaimed from people who never deserved to hold it in the first place. They'll tell their version of events and you won't correct them. They'll paint themselves as victims and you won't defend yourself. They'll rewrite history and you won't argue because you know something they don't. They will put it in words because you know something they don't. People who need to lie about what happened are still controlled by it. People who need to justify their actions are still haunted by them. People who need everyone to see you as the villain are still obsessed with being seen as the hero. But you don't need to control the narrative anymore because you're not in it. You've moved so far beyond that chapter that their version of events is irrelevant to your current reality. Let them tell their story. You're too busy living yours and thriving in ways they said would be impossible without them. This is your time now, the season where everything you protected, everything you preserved, everything you refused to compromise finally pays off. The relationships you walked away from make space for connections that actually nourish you. The standards you maintain attract people who can actually meet them. The boundaries you enforced create a life where peace isn't a luxury, it's your default state. You're not waiting for karma to handle them, because you've realized karma isn't about punishment, it's about natural consequences. And people who refuse to grow naturally stagnate in their own dysfunction. You don't need to watch it happen, you don't need confirmation that they're struggling without you. You just need to keep building, keep rising, keep becoming the version of yourself that makes your past self proud and your future self inevitable. So to everyone who thought your silence was weakness, surprise it was strategy. To everyone who mistook your patience for permission, surprise it was observation. To everyone who assumed your kindness was naivety, surprise it was strength, secure enough not to need to prove itself. You weren't oblivious, you were deliberate. You weren't lost, you were learning. You weren't broken, you were breaking free. And now you're exactly where you fought to be, in complete control of your energy, your space, your time, your peace. Untouchable, not because you built walls, but because you care about the right things now. Intouchable, not because you don't care, but because you care about the right things now. You care about the right things now. Yourself, your growth, your peace, your purpose.